Hello there, welcome back for another whiteboarding slash discussion about different things in network engineering and design. And we're going to flip this around a little bit this time and talk about some things that are maybe not normally associated with being a network engineer but are very important. And we're going to talk about systems that you use day in, day out, every day without thinking about it. And I know sometimes they might seem like they're a bit annoying and you have to fill in your timesheet or you have to update an incident and how long a tack case is taken to solve and all these things, but there's multiple reasons why we need these systems, and I'm going to try to demystify some of these so that hopefully it sheds some light on the wider network engineering role from both the engineer perspective, but also other departments in your organisation and generally in relation to how your company or employer actually operates. Let's get started then. First of all, I'm going to list off some systems, and if you don't know, if you're listening to this for the first time, to introduce myself, my name is Malcolm Booden and I run a network consulting practice called MNB Networks. We work with organisations and customers all over the world and mainly doing consultancy services which specialise in design and engineering of customer networks. Now, that obviously has to start somewhere, and what we're going to do is try and tell a story here very quickly in this video, but in following videos we will break it down in more detail. If you check out our YouTube channel, MNB Networks, then you will see that we have other videos that are up there related to more generic network design and things like that. So if that's more what interests you, then feel free to check that out. Alright, so the systems that we're going to talk about, and if you think that you've got a company, okay, and you've got employees, so different types of employees, you've got engineers, you've got sales, we also have pre-sales. Aside from that, we have a whole other function that actually comprises a company. So we have admin people, human resources, and payroll. They work with each other. And then we also have accountancy, and they obviously have input into HR and payroll. And you can see I've actually started drawing things here. Now, what we also have here is in the middle, customers. What else do we have? And that could be like internal customers, and then we have external customers. And we need, if we just take it at the most basic level and we think about what do they need to actually interact with inside MNB networks. Aside from the actual customers, we also have various things like products. They might or might not be defined. Services. And then we also have supported vendors. And something I actually missed off here, which is very important, is the NOC or the SOC. Because basically the NOC and the SOC are actually should be here, but they probably should also be inside here because they are the heart of your operation. And all of these things around the edge interact with the NOC, Because if we zoom out a little bit and we think about the life cycle where we have a customer, okay, and that might be an existing or a new customer, right? And they're either going to go one of two ways, really. They're going to go to operations or they're going to go to sales. If they go to operations, then they are going to probably want support or an enhancement. If they go to sales, they're going to want something new and shiny, or they're going to have spend their budget. Now, there's a whole load of things that come with that, where they are going to haggle on price and all the rest of it, and suppliers are going to say, well, yeah, we can't really go any lower than that, and all. There's a whole game, I suppose, towards that whole negotiation. But I really just want to give a picture of the wider business sense and what we need to think about from a systems perspective. Now, I'm going to just give a couple of examples here where I'm going to talk about some of the things in the middle of the diagram. I'm going to mark it up in sort of like red, dark orange text, just to give some examples as to how the different things interact. If we start with sales, it's a terrible colour. Start with sales. And then we say, what do we want to, and a customer comes in. Let's reverse a little bit. Customer request comes in via the sales organisation. Now, if they say, what we would like to do is we would like to implement a system with a specific vendor, and what we would like to do is leverage some of your services in order to implement it. So they're choosing a couple of things from the portfolio, and what we need to think about in order to get that from step one to completion, we're going to have to interact with different systems. So the knock and the sock might be the last place that we talk about, if step 7 is the last place, or it might be step 1. Because if we come back down to the bottom here and we say we want to spend the budget, we've got an existing knock service and we want to spend the budget, then the questions that we need to start thinking about internally are, do we have the capacity? If it's a existing service in the core network, for example, do we know what's there at the moment? So the existing design, and if not, why not? And if that the case for that is that we have taken on a network from another provider and there's no documentation, then we might say, well, let's do an audit. If that's not the case, and it's due to the fact that we've not documented something, or if we have taken on a new service and the customer has a new requirement, then we might need to work out or work through the solution. So this is really only tipping the edge of or at the tip of the iceberg, I should say, and only really scratching the surface on what we would actually need to do in order to deliver a service if a customer requested one. Now, how does that actually relate to the systems? Going back to this up here. What we need to do is identify what systems that we actually need in place in order to deliver all this. Now, I've only given a couple of examples, and what I would say is that there's many examples that I can elaborate on further to what I've just explained. But in order to deliver all this, you need a few core systems, and then you also need probably some additional more specialist systems in order to deliver this type of service. So let me start talking about the systems that you're going to need, and then in the next video we will talk about what these systems actually do and what they mean and why specifically you would actually need them. And even it's probably worth mentioning that you don't need all of these systems from the start of your startup organisation or professional services organisation. Sometimes you need to invest as your organisation develops, but if you have a large pipeline and a customer base, you might need it sooner. So it's probably reactive based on the circumstances that you have. So I'm just going to list these out. CRM software, this is customer service, and sales, I would say. And then there's project management, hopefully that explains itself. Incident management, this is going really into managed service. Managed services. You also need accountancy software. And this is really important to be able to understand cash flow and projected revenue. Timesheet software is also important. And the reason for this is this can also relate into your project management software, but there's multiple different reasons why you would need or you should consider timesheet software for your engineers and your general staff. And it's not about keeping tabs on them, just bring that up there just now. It's about ensuring that your staff are okay, they're not overwhelmed, it's ensuring that the customer is getting what they need, and multiple different things that can link into project management tasks and delivery. And then we also have like network documentation. So the reason that I've brought this up right at the end is not because it's the least important, but we've actually got a couple of different reasons to have network documentation. There's planning, and then there's validation, I would call it. Planning is one of the main things that we do at MNB Networks, and that's traditional like network design. Why do you need this? You need network design documentation so that you know how to deploy a certain technology or a certain design in line with the customer requirements. If you don't have the network in place, then you don't have systems that can go and interrogate a network that doesn't exist. So you have to create that documentation yourself, and you need to know how to design networks in order to do that. The validation part is if you put some sort of tool in place, which then interrogates the device. And then if you interrogate the device, the output is a network map or design diagram. So there we have it, an introduction to network systems. In the following videos we will be talking more about these. It might or might not make sense at the moment, but hopefully after we run through the various different explanations of the tools, it will make more sense. And I'd like to thank you for your attention so far, and speak to you soon when we'll talk about the first software or piece of software, which we're actually going to start with accountancy software. And I'm doing this on the fly, but the order that we will probably do these in is accountancy software, then project management, then CRM, then timesheets, then network documentation, and then incident management software, because that's roughly how I see these different pieces of software being built out in your organisation in the order that you will need them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for your attention. Cheers.